You've been searching for your purpose like it's hidden somewhere outside of you. But what if the reason you can't find it is because you haven't stopped moving long enough to let it find you? There's a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from chasing something you can't name. You wake up with lists, goals, plans. You scroll through other people's highlight reels and wonder why your life doesn't feel that clear, that directed, that lit from within. You read the books. You listen to the podcasts. You try the morning routines, the affirmations, the vision boards, and still this quiet, persistent feeling that you're supposed to be doing something more, something bigger, something that finally makes sense of all this effort. You're not lazy, you're not ungrateful. You're just tired of running toward a finish line that keeps moving. Here's what nobody tells you. The very act of searching so desperately is what makes purpose invisible. Imagine trying to see your reflection in water while you're thrashing through it. The more you move, the more distorted everything becomes. The surface breaks into 1,000 fragments. You catch glimpses, a flash of clarity, a moment of meaning, but before you can hold it, it scatters again. That's what we do with purpose. We chase it with such velocity that we pass right through the moments where it's actually revealing itself. Purpose isn't a destination you arrive at after checking enough boxes. It's not a career title, a bank balance, or a perfectly curated life that finally earns you the right to feel fulfilled. Purpose is quieter than that, more intimate. It lives in the pauses between your plans, in the breath before the decision, in the small, unwitnessed moments when you're not performing for anyone, not even yourself. But we've been conditioned to believe the opposite. We've been taught that purpose is something you find through achievement, through doing more, being more, proving more. So we speed up, we optimize, we multitask our way through existence, terrified that if we slow down, we'll fall behind, or worse, discover we've been running in the wrong direction all along. And so the irony deepens. The thing you're searching for can only be heard in stillness, but you're too afraid to be still. You fill every silence with noise, every empty hour with productivity, every moment of solitude with distraction. Not because you're weak, but because somewhere along the way, you learned that your worth is measured by your output. That rest is laziness. That silence is empty. But silence isn't empty, it's full. Full of the voice you've been drowning out with all that noise. There's a Sufi story about a man who loses his ring inside his house at night. He goes outside and starts searching under the street lamp. A neighbor asks, "Why are you looking out here if you lost it inside?" The man replies, "Because the light is better out here. You are that man." You're searching for purpose in the bright, visible places, in external validation, in measurable success, in the approval of others, because that's where the light is. But the ring isn't there. It never was. It's inside. In the dark, quiet rooms of your inner life that you've been avoiding. And you avoid them for good reason. Because when you slow down, when you actually stop, you have to face things. The doubt, the fear. The parts of yourself you've been outrunning. The questions you don't have answers to. The grief you haven't processed. The dreams you've been too afraid to name. It's easier to stay busy. Easier to keep searching externally than to sit with what's stirring internally. But here's the truth that changes everything. Your purpose isn't missing. It's not lost. It's not something you lack or failed to discover. It's already here. It's been here the whole time, woven into the fabric of who you are, waiting patiently beneath all your striving. It's in the things that make you come alive when no one's watching. In the conversations that light you up. In the problems you can't help but notice. In the beauty that stops you mid-step. In the injustices that break your heart. In the small acts of care you extend without thinking. Your purpose is in your noticing. In what draws your attention again and again, even when you try to ignore it. But you can't hear it when you're running. You can't feel it when you're performing. You can't recognize it when every moment is scheduled, every silence filled, every stillness avoided. The mystics understood this. They spoke of purpose not as something you achieve, but as something you uncover. Not something you create, but something you remember. They knew that the deepest truths don't come through striving, they come through surrender. Through the radical act of stopping. Not stopping because you've given up, but stopping because you're finally ready to listen. And what you'll hear, when you finally slow down, might surprise you. It won't be a grand proclamation. It won't be a perfectly formed mission statement. It will be quieter than that, more honest. It will sound less like a command and more like a recognition. Oh, yes, this is what I'm here for. Not because someone told you, not because it looks impressive, but because it feels true in a way that needs no justification. That's what this is about. Not finding your purpose out there in the world, but slowing down enough to let it emerge from within. Not achieving it through force, but allowing it through presence. And it starts with a single, revolutionary act, the willingness to stop. There's a very specific kind of panic that lives in the modern human heart. It whispers, you're running out of time. Everyone else is ahead. If you don't figure this out now, you'll miss your chance. It's the voice that turns 30 into a deadline. That makes every birthday feel like a referendum on your worth. That scrolls through social media and sees everyone else's highlight reel as evidence of your inadequacy. This voice has convinced you that purpose operates on a schedule, that there's a right time to find it, and if you haven't by now, you're already behind. But here's what that voice doesn't tell you. It's lying. The urgency you feel isn't coming from your soul. It's coming from a culture that profits from your anxiety, from systems designed to keep you producing, consuming, comparing, and never quite feeling like enough. Real purpose doesn't operate on society's timeline. It doesn't care about arbitrary milestones or culturally constructed deadlines. It unfolds according to a rhythm that's entirely your own, sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly, always exactly when you're ready to receive it. Think about the people whose lives you admire, the ones who seem to have found that elusive sense of meaning and direction. If you look closely, you'll notice something. Very few of them found it early. Very few of them followed a straight line. Most wandered. Most struggled. Most spent years feeling exactly like you do now, uncertain, searching, wondering if they'd ever figure it out. But somewhere along the way, they stopped fighting the uncertainty. They stopped treating their confusion as a problem to fix and started treating it as information to feel. They slowed down enough to notice what was actually true for them, beneath all the noise of what they thought should be true. And that's when everything shifted. Not because they suddenly discovered some hidden purpose that was waiting in the wings, but because they stopped abandoning themselves in pursuit of an idealized future and started inhabiting their actual present. Alan Watts said it beautifully. Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. Your life is the muddy water, and you keep stirring it with your anxiety, your planning, your constant analysis and second guessing. You keep asking, what's my purpose? What should I do? Where should I go? And the very act of asking so frantically keeps the water churned, keeps clarity at bay. But if you could just stop, if you could just let the water settle, the mud would sink, the truth would become visible. Not because you forced it into focus, but because you finally stopped obscuring it. This isn't about giving up on ambition or letting life happen to you passively. This is about understanding that there's a difference between productive action and anxious motion, between purposeful movement and desperate running. You know the difference. You feel it in your body. Purposeful action feels aligned, even when it's challenging. It has weight. It has resonance. It might scare you, but it doesn't deplete you. Anxious motion feels scattered. It's exhausting even when you're not accomplishing much. It's the kind of business that leaves you feeling hollow at the end of the day, like you ran a marathon but can't remember where you went. Most of what we call productivity is actually just anxiety in motion. It's the ego's way of feeling like it's doing something, anything, to outrun the discomfort of not knowing. But not knowing isn't the enemy. Not knowing is the doorway. It's the space where real transformation happens, where old identities dissolve and new possibilities emerge, where you stop living from the script you inherited and start writing from your own experience. But you can't write from experience if you're never present to it. If you're always somewhere else in your mind, in the past regretting, in the future planning, anywhere but here, here is where your purpose lies. Not in some distant future when everything finally falls into place, but in this moment, right now, in how you show up to what's in front of you. There's a Zen teaching that says, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The tasks don't change. The circumstances don't necessarily become easier or more glamorous. What changes is the quality of presence you bring to them, the awareness, the care, the recognition that there is no moment more important than this one. Your purpose isn't waiting for you somewhere, down the road after you've finally gotten your life together. Your purpose is woven into the texture of your days right now, exactly as they are. It's in how you listen when someone speaks, in how you treat the cashier who's having a bad day, in how you notice the light falling through your window, in how you tend to the small, unglamorous tasks that make up most of existence. These aren't distractions from your purpose. They are the substance of it. But we miss this. We miss it because we've been trained to think of purpose as something grand, something that requires a stage, an audience, a raison line. And yes, purpose can express itself through work, through art, through visible contribution. But it starts much smaller and much closer. It starts with how you inhabit your own life, with whether you're actually present for it, or whether you're always somewhere else, waiting for the real thing to begin. The real thing is already here. It's been here all along. You've just been moving too fast to notice. So what if you slowed down? What if you gave yourself permission to stop treating every moment as a stepping stone to somewhere better and started treating it as enough, as real, as now? What if your purpose isn't something you find, but something you practice? Not once, not when you finally figure it all out, but daily in the small choices that shape who you're becoming. That's not resignation. That's wisdom. There's a particular kind of homecoming that happens when you finally stop running. It's not dramatic. There's no fanfare, no sudden clarity that drops from the sky and solves everything. It's quieter than that, more subtle. It feels less like finding something new and more like remembering something ancient. Like you've been carrying the answer inside you the whole time, but you were too busy asking the question to notice. This is what happens when you slow down, when you stop outsourcing your sense of direction to gurus systems, formulas, and other people's definitions of success. When you turn your attention inward, not with judgment, not with urgency, but with genuine curiosity. Who am I beneath all the noise? What do I actually want, not what I think I should want? What brings me alive, not what looks impressive? These aren't easy questions. In fact, they're among the hardest you'll ever ask, because they require you to be honest in a way that most of us have been trained to avoid. We've learned to perform, to present, to curate. We've learned to shape ourselves into whatever we think will earn approval, security, belonging. And in the process, we've drifted so far from our own center that we don't even know what our unedited truth sounds like anymore. But your purpose doesn't live in the performance. It lives in what remains when the performance drops. It lives in the version of you that emerges when no one's watching. When there's no one to impress, no image to maintain, no role to play. That's the you that knows. That's always known. But you have to create space for that knowing to surface. You have to quiet the external voices long enough to hear the internal one. And that requires courage, not the courage of bold action, but the courage of stillness. The courage to sit with yourself without distraction, without escape, without the constant motion that lets you avoid what's real. The Sufis have a saying, the wound is where the light enters. What they mean is this: the places where you feel most broken, most confused, most lost, those aren't obstacles to your purpose. Those are often the doorways to it. Because your purpose isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about taking your lived experience, all of it, the beautiful and the broken, and letting it become medicine. For yourself first, and then, if you're called, for others. But you can't offer what you haven't integrated. You can't give from an empty well. You can't guide others toward wholeness if you're still running from your own fragmentation. So the work, the real work, is to come home to yourself, to gather up the parts of you that you've exiled, denied, or hidden away, to stop performing the version of yourself you think the world wants and start inhabiting the version that's actually true. This is what slowing down allows. This is what happens when you stop chasing and start settling. You begin to notice things, the patterns, the conditioning, the stories you've been telling yourself about who you are and what you're capable of. And with that noticing comes the possibility of choice. You realize, I don't have to keep living from this script. I don't have to keep proving something I already am. I don't have to keep running from something that was never chasing me. And in that realization, something loosens. The grip of urgency releases. The weight of expectation lifts. You exhale for what feels like the first time in years. Because here's the secret that no one tells you. When you're frantically searching for purpose, the searching itself was the block. Not because effort is wrong, not because intention doesn't matter, but because you can't receive what you're desperately grasping for. You can't hear the whisper when you're screaming. You can't feel the pull of your own gravity when you're constantly being yanked in 100 directions by external demands. Your purpose is magnetic, not aggressive. It doesn't announce itself loudly. It doesn't compete for your attention. It simply is. And when you create the conditions of stillness, of presence, of honest self-encounter, it becomes unmistakable. Not because it's suddenly louder, but because you're finally quiet enough to hear it. And what you'll discover when you finally hear it is that it's been speaking to you all along. In the things that move you, in the moments when time disappears, in the work that doesn't feel like work, in the conversations that feed your soul, in the quiet knowing that arises when you're aligned with something true. Your purpose isn't missing. It's not out there waiting to be found. It's here, in you, woven into the very fabric of your being. It's in your sensitivity, your curiosity, your particular way of seeing the world. It's in the questions that won't leave you alone, in the problems you can't help but care about, in the beauty that stops you cold. It's in all of it. The light and the shadow, the clarity and the confusion, the arrival and the wandering. But you'll only recognize it if you stop treating your life like a problem to solve and start treating it like an unfolding to witness. If you stop demanding that it look a certain way and start allowing it to reveal what it actually is. This is the return. Not to some idealized version of yourself, but to the one that's been here all along, patient and waiting, ready to be seen. Not the you that's perfectly put together, but the you that's perfectly, honestly, messily alive. That's where purpose lies. Not in the highlight reel, but in the raw, unfiltered, beautifully imperfect truth of your actual existence. And the moment you stop running from that truth, the moment you slow down enough to meet it with tenderness instead of judgment, that's when everything shifts. So how do you actually do this? How do you slow down in a world that rewards speed? How do you hear your purpose when everything around you is designed to keep you distracted? The answer isn't another system. It's not a 10-step program or a morning routine that promises transformation. It's simpler than that and more challenging. You practice presence. You practice returning again and again to the only moment that's actually real. This one. Not the one you're planning for, not the one you're replaying. This one, right here, right now. And you do it not once, but constantly, because your mind will wander. Your attention will scatter. The momentum of old patterns will pull you back toward distraction, toward worry, toward the familiar anxiety of not enoughness. That's not failure. That's being human. The practice isn't about never getting lost. It's about noticing when you've drifted and gently bringing yourself back. Over and over, without punishment, without drama, just back. Back to your breath, back to sensation, back to the present moment, which is the only place you can actually meet your life, you can start with something small, laughably small even. One conscious breath, one moment where you pause before responding, one meal eaten without your phone, one walk taken without headphones, one conversation where you're fully present instead of planning what you'll say next. These aren't trivial acts. They're revolutionary. Because each one is a tiny rebellion against the speed and distraction that keeps you estranged from yourself. Each one is a small reclamation of your own attention, your own presence, your own life. And over time, these small moments accumulate. They create space. They create gaps in the noise where something quieter can emerge, where you can actually hear what's true for you, beneath all the conditioning and expectation. This is how you find your purpose. Not by searching harder, but by being present enough to recognize it when it's already here. You start to notice this feels right. This lights me up. This matters to me, even when it's hard. This is worth my attention, my energy, my care. And gradually, imperceptibly, your life starts to organize itself around those moments. Not because you forced it, not because you had a plan, but because when you're actually present, you naturally move toward what's alive and away from what's dead. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. You stop performing for audiences that don't exist. You stop trying to be someone you're not in hopes that it will finally earn you permission to exist. You just exist, fully, messily, honestly. And in that existence, purpose isn't something you find. It's something you become. There's a beautiful paradox here that the mystics understood. The moment you stop chasing purpose is often the moment it finds you. The moment you release your grip on how your life should look is the moment it can actually reveal what it wants to be. This doesn't mean giving up on dreams or ambitions. It means holding them lightly. It means staying open to the possibility that your life might want to go somewhere you haven't imagined yet. That your purpose might look different than you expected. That the thing you're meant to do might be quieter, stranger, more ordinary than you thought. And that's okay, more than okay. Because purpose isn't about being extraordinary. It's about being aligned, about being honest, about offering your particular medicine, your unique combination of gifts, wounds, questions, and care to the world in whatever form wants to emerge. Sometimes that's loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it looks like traditional success. Sometimes it looks like a life well lived in ways no one will ever see or celebrate. But when it's yours, really yours, not borrowed from someone else's vision, it feels like coming home. It feels like finally being able to exhale. Like you can stop running because there's nowhere you need to get to. You're already here. And here is enough. Here is everything. This is the invitation to slow down, to stop treating every moment as a stepping stone to somewhere else, to release the grip of urgency and drop into the felt sense of your actual life exactly as it is. Not perfect, not figured out, not polished or complete, but real, alive, yours. Your purpose isn't waiting for you at the end of some journey. It's walking with you every step. It's in how you show up today, in what you choose to care about, in how you treat yourself when you're struggling, in how you meet the ordinary, mundane, beautiful catastrophe of being human. It's already here. It's always been here. You just have to slow down enough to notice. So take a breath, a real one. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice where you are. Your purpose isn't missing. It's not out there somewhere, waiting to be found. It's right here, in the stillness you've been avoiding, in the silence you've been filling, in the present moment you've been racing past. It's been waiting, not for you to become someone else, but for you to slow down enough to remember who you already are. And that's all it takes. One breath, one moment. One return to now. That's where it begins.